Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome from around the world. I know that being on Zoom, sometimes you're watching this in the morning, sometimes you're watching this in the afternoon, and sometimes you're watching it in the evening. And I just want to welcome you to my session of Facing AdFARsity. And I'd like to start with a question. Why is being here important to you today? Why is being here important to you today? Are you discouraged? Are you a leader who is challenged by your team and wonders how to do a great job? Do you need new techniques to handle adversity? Well, you might just need some inspiration, and hopefully you will get all of that today. I want to share how personally I've come far in the face of adversity. Now, my word AdFARsity, sorry, over here, was born in Miraval in Tucson, Arizona, when I was talking about going far in the face of adversity, and I called it AdFARsity. This, my friend, is how new words are made in the world, or at least that's how I make them. And I want to share some tools today on how you can go far in the face of AdFARsity. Whether we see each other again or not, I want you to take away some tools today. But I'm also going to give you an opportunity to join me in working further after this. I also have a free gift that I'll talk about at the end, so stay tuned. I want to share some ideas, some inspiration, some insights that I've had through my own journey. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I have been leading organizations for the last 40 years. I am so old. My undergrad degree at Indiana University in 1981 was computer science. And I learned to work in COBOL and Fortran. Some of you don't even know what that is. Yeah, those are my people. But I'm so old, my first cell phone was attached to my car, would not come out, cost $2,000. And I basically used it to say, hi, I'm on my way, because I was always running late. But I'm also so old that I have some wisdom. Now, you never know who is watching you. And I have watched leaders my entire life, not just career, but my life. And frankly, most of them are not so good. Why do I say that? I think it's because leaders, we get in this position of leading others and we get so focused on our goals, we forget that it is us that makes a difference. If you think about leaders that you've had in the past, what do you remember from them? What did they teach you? Because in adversity comes our greatest teachers. I was one of those not so great leaders. I was leading a team at a bank. And I had 24 people that worked for me, and I was way over my skis in leading. And I thought, I got to get better at this. And I started taking executive coaching classes. And I thought, wow, these are ideas and techniques I need to learn. And I did learn them. And I have been educated at Coach University, Dream Coach University, John Maxwell, the Center for Executive Coaching, and all of this training, plus a lot of facilitations, thousands of hours of training, have taught me that if I want to be the best, I must learn from the best. I've had consultants. My first business started in the early 80s, and I had consultants long before there were coaches. And I had consultants that taught me how to work and how to do a good job. And that came from me listening and learning from them and trying what they said. Now, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room all the time, but I do own that my wisdom and my abilities can change the world. Do you own that? Do you own the ability of how you can change the world? Through the next few minutes, I'll give you some background and a template on how to face adversity. And here's a little more information on my background. I was educated at Indiana University in business with a major in accounting and a minor in computer science. And I received my master's in anthropology and archaeology from Harvard University, and just received that last year, with a thesis focused on ending the use of child soldiers as weapons of war in the world. I have had the great opportunity to speak at the United Nations. I gave a TEDx in 2018. I started a foundation for Rwanda in 2005, and I've traveled to Rwanda 12 times. Here's what I know: that people do not want to be defined by their adversity, but by their strength and resilience. And this is something that I have learned through the hardest of lessons and by watching other leaders. I'm a heart attack survivor, a cancer survivor, an author. I've written 2 books, a third soon coming out. And the latest adversity I faced has been cancer. Now, it's interesting. I talked to some people about this, and they said, I really don't want to talk about cancer. And I get it. I was deep in the closet about my cancer for years. Friends and family knew about it, but I did not go public like this. But I decided I had to go public, because if I had a buck every time somebody told me how brave I was, I didn't feel brave, but I did gather tools to face the adversity of cancer. And that's what I want to talk about. But first, let me define adversity for you. Adversity is a misfortune, a troubling situation, or hardship. Now, there are 6 types of adversities you can encounter in your lifetime: self-doubt, physical injuries or illness, rejection, poverty, losing a loved one, and struggling to succeed in your selected career. The one that struck me that I think is super important and affects us all, regardless of our gender, our nationality, and where we are in the world, is self-doubt. And self-doubt is a big one because so many people struggle to find a reason for living. What am I here to do in the world? Now, I frankly know that part of my legacy will be teaching how to face adversity. Sounds a little dramatic, but it's the truth. And we have to find a way and a purpose for living in the world, not in an existential way, but in the simple question, what am I here to do in the world? What are you here to do in the world? Now, I'd like to stop and remind you of something. Do not fear the future, or it will come. Do not run from adversity. It will be of no use. And do not doubt you have the strength to overcome any obstacle. I know many of you who watch this have been through the ringer. And you're here. You're here in the world, and you got back up. Recently, as I said, my latest adversity was cancer. And when I was down at Miraval, which is a destination spa in Tucson, Arizona, and I was talking about adversity and facing it and came up with the word AdFARsity, a new word was born. And the FAR in AdFARsity stands for faith and forgiveness, the F. A is acknowledgement, and R is rejoice. I'm going to go over those in a little bit, but I want you to think about how you have faced adversity. And knowing we are our own harshest critic, remember, when you look back at what you've accomplished, you will be amazed at your own strength. It was hard won, not necessarily chosen, but life-changing. Who among us guessed this life 10 years ago? 5 years ago? Not me. But someone once said, if you fail to go within, you go without. And I believe finding faith in something outside ourselves is important to support us. And yes, I am talking about a spiritual practice, not a religious one. Many of us have come through religious backgrounds and been traumatized by what has happened. But a spiritual practice is going within. Now, it could be a meditation. For you, meditation may be difficult. You do it with one eye open, or you really don't know how to do it. There's a woman named Pema Chodron who leads meditations, and I found her years ago, and I really liked her because I wasn't a meditative kind of girl. But she said that she talks, if you want to find her, Pema Chodron, P-E-M-A-S-C-H-R-O, Pema C-H-O-R-D-O-N. James, engineer, if you could put Pema Chodron's name on the screen, that would be great. I have great help in the background. Anyway, Pema Chodron is a monk who talked about how we get stuck. And when we get stuck, if you're thinking, if you've ever meditated and you've gone like this, okay, I'm thinking about what is my purpose in the world? What are you going to have for dinner? And then you get focused on that. That is called Shenpa. And Shenpa is the urge or hook that triggers a habitual tendency to close down. Because who does not feel bad when they are meditating and find themselves all of a sudden thinking about dinner? And we get hooked in the moment of tightening and we reach for relief. Shenpa is a concept I've used to release suffering or pain or worry. Not that it goes away, but that I release it. And I think that often happens when we face adversity. We do become afraid. And we believe in something unseen or within ourselves may be difficult, but it is possible. It is possible. For those of you who like to be more active, it might be a physical challenge that reminds you of what is possible from within your spirit. There are enough videos on YouTube to be inspired by someone who has nothing or physical disabilities that may challenge you in a way you've never believed is possible. Years ago, when I was at Mirabal, I was 39 years old. There was something called the quantum leap. And it was a mind exercise. It was to try to understand who we were. And it was a group activity, and we had a harness on. And I climbed a 25-foot telephone pole that was swaying slightly. And I got to the top, and there was a disc. And if the pole was this big around, the disc was this big. So I get to the top, and I'm supposed to lift my leg up between my chest and my hands and then stand up. I could not do that. And I had everybody down below yelling at me and giving me help. And I looked down and I go, shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. And I thought, how am I going to get to the top of this pole? And I had to let my hands go and then climb straight up the pole and take my foot off the end of the pole and go over the edge and stand up and bring my foot on the other side over the edge and stand up. And that pole, I swear to God, it went like this. And everybody cheered. But as I stood and I looked out at the horizon, I thought, what else can I do that I didn't know was possible? I turned 180 degrees. I leapt off. And I had that quantum leap of thinking. It changed my life. I mean, it changed my life. And it was as spiritual of an experience as praying or meditating or anything I had ever done in my life. I never thought that something so physical could change me. But that's what happens when you go inside and you look at what is possible. In the late 70s, I was dating a guy in my famous catch and release program with men who adored two people, Muhammad Ali and Elvis Presley. And therefore, I had to listen to him talk for hours about these two guys. Now, they are both amazing people in their own right. But when he talked about Muhammad Ali, we then had to watch prize fights, heavyweight prize fights. Now, I am not into violence of any sort, but I was astounded at how these fighters got back up when they were knocked down. And many times they were being beaten to death, and yet their spirit would rise. I even remember people screaming at them, "Stay down, stay down." And yet they got back up. I think our human spirit wants to get back up by nature. It wants us to succeed, and sometimes we just forget what is possible. Think of a child. The first time a child tries to stand, what happens? Boom, they go back down. Now they cry a little bit, they get kissed by their parents, they told us okay, it's like, you can do it. They stand up again. And they might fall down again. But they keep getting back up until they start to take their first step. What happens? They fall down. Now, if our nature was to stay down, there would be a lot of adults sitting around on the ground saying, I tried to get up when I was 10 months old, didn't make it, so I'm just going to sit here the rest of my life. No. Our spirit says to get back up. And if you practice a religion or have a faith, it can bring you comfort, but it can also bring you confusion, because we kind of have a demand thing going sometimes with God or a spiritual being. But if you can look, again, beyond the religion to the faith, I encourage you to find something within your faith that gives you calm and peace. And I also want to remind you to have faith in yourself. I first got oral cancer in 2014, and nothing surprised me more, except the Widowmaker heart attack in 2013. When I had the Widowmaker in 2013, the surgeon could not believe I was even talking, much less arguing with him about what was going to happen, because I waited a long time to get that taken care of. But I got a stent in my heart, and I'm telling you, the Widowmaker heart attack sobered me up as far as I was going to boot camp, I was working out, but I was not taking good care of myself. And I hated taking all those medications. The blood thinners that you look at your hand and it turns black. And I can tell people who are on blood thinners a mile away, because they're just like, you just get touched and you get bruised. But it really sobered me up to look at my health. And it made me do a deep dive into what I believed for myself. I went within, I found peace. I defined my life in new terms. And then a year later, I got oral cancer. Now, nobody, again, was more surprised than I, but I have to tell you that earlier adversity prepared me for facing cancer. 2 surgeries in 2014, and in 2015, it came back, and I had 36 radiation treatments to my face. I went a little public with that, kind of bit public on Facebook. And the tumor went away, and everything kind of went back to normal. And I considered myself very fortunate. But over the years, they have been looking for cancer in my mouth. At the end of this, we're going to have a question and answer. If anyone has any questions, if you want to know more about why I had oral cancer or whatever, feel free to ask. But things, even though you don't, quote, have cancer that's active, you think about it like you think about everything. And in 2021, I had part of my palate in my mouth removed, which was a really tough surgery because there were lesions in my mouth. And then at the end of 2022, cancer came back with a roar. And in February of 23, I had a massive surgery. They did a skin flap, it's called. They took all the teeth out over here, put this skin thing in my mouth, put a drain in here. I had a nasogastric tube. I had a feeding tube. I had tubes coming out of everywhere. And they took my teeth over here. And I woke up and my face was paralyzed and I was unable to chew food well. And I said, are you kidding me? Nobody warned me that those things could happen. And once again, I had to face the adversity of dealing with that. Now, the radiation from 10 years ago, you know, these treatments we face are brutal. And I was warned because they really wanted to cut my lip off in 2015. But they said, we'll do radiation, but there could be some side effects. Well, bingo, ding, ding, ding. Side effect is all my upper teeth came loose this last 4 months. I mean, loose, like wiggle like a 4-year-old waiting to get it out to put it under your pillow loose. And when I would wiggle my tooth and show it to Heidi, my oncology dentist, she goes, don't do that. I said, okay. But anyway, the only solution for that was to have all my upper teeth pulled, implants, and teeth put in, screwed right into my head. Sorry for those of you who are getting a little sick to your belly. That surgery was 2 weeks ago yesterday. I came out sore, really ripped up in my lips because my mouth, frankly, is smaller than it was because of the radiation tightens my mouth. So they have a heck of a time putting stuff in there and they rip up my mouth, which reminds me, I need to put a little lip gloss on. You know how speakers stop to drink a glass of water? Well, I got to put stuff on my lips because they're all broken up. Anyway, I had the surgery and I'm here to speak today. I will not let my adversity define me. I may have cancer, but cancer does not have me. And when you are here in this room and want to face adversity, what are you capable of? In my thesis on child soldiers, I reviewed a film by a director named Brian Singal. He wrote the film called Children of War. He embedded himself in a rehabilitation camp for child soldiers. I actually worked with child soldiers in Rwanda, which inspired my thesis because these kids go through such trauma and adversity. And then they go into a rehabilitation camp and they begin to heal. He told a heartbreaking and beautiful story. We followed some children through the story. And when I interviewed him for my thesis, I asked him how he handles suffering. And he said, all suffering is impermanent, Vicki. That shook me to my core. All suffering is impermanent. All suffering. I believe that. It is a Buddhist belief that all suffering is impermanent. A couple of weeks after I had the surgery, my teeth were all bucked out like Gary Busey. I'm sorry, Gary. I should quit. I'm going to say donkey like Shrek. You know, donkey's teeth were like, that's how my teeth look. So I had to go in the next day and the doctor unscrewed my teeth and then screwed them back, moved the implants and screwed them back in. And it hurt. And I kept saying to myself, all suffering is impermanent. And I squeezed John's hand real hard during that. But this saying helped me have faith in myself. What I am suffering, what you are suffering, will not last. My mother always said, this too shall pass. But remember this about this too shall pass. It's not just the negative, this too shall pass. The good passes and the bad passes. These wonderful moments we have in our life, this too shall pass. I will never again be standing here at 9:24 a.m. in Lake Oswego, Oregon, doing this. This moment shall pass, and I am so grateful to be doing this today. But I can endure anything because I know it is impermanent. When we watch someone we love suffer, which is a lot harder than suffering, I think, it's a bit of a difficulty not to see them in their last moments of pain as our final memory of them. God, most people live a life much beyond their final event. And when we remember that, we gain some peace, knowing this was hard, but it is impermanent. And it resolves either through healing or sometimes death. But if I know and believe that all suffering is impermanent, it gives me comfort. The other F I spoke about is forgiveness. Now, this is a longer story, of course, that we learn to forgive those in our life who have wronged us as we move on. Part of the program that I'm going to talk about near the end of this presentation is a year-long program where we will focus on faith and forgiveness and learn ways to find forgiveness, not for the perpetrator of our harm, but ourselves. I have seen this so much in Rwanda, where I have watched people go through the genocide against Tutsi of 1994 and forgive their perpetrators. You don't know how people do it, but you hear about it all the time. What is the power in forgiveness? I think the power in forgiveness is that it gives us peace. So when I was at Miraval, I was doing a forgiveness meditation. And I don't know if any of my surgeons are going to watch this. That'd be something. Hey, surgeons. But I was thinking about, who do I need to forgive? And I realized I need to forgive the surgeons who operated on me. There were 3 of them. I don't know who did it. I had decided that I had a good guess. But I was so pissed, so angry that my face would get paralyzed. And the paralyzed started, so this is where all the surgery happened. My lip was paralyzed from here over. And now the paralysis is right here only. I mean, right here, I have feeling now. So it's come a long way, baby. But still, I was really angry. And as I did this forgiveness meditation, I didn't even know I needed to forgive them. Isn't that the way it works? It's like, who do I need to forgive? The surgeons. Really? Okay. All right. And as I thought about the surgeons, I thought, it was an accident, not a malpractice accident. What they had to do was take all these teeth and shave down to the bone. And this is where the nerves for your jaw lie. Now, they did not warn me. I swear to God, they did not warn me it could happen. But I knew they nicked it. And they said, we hope it comes back. And a year later, pretty good. But I needed to forgive them. And when you forgive, it's about their humanity, not yours. They're just people. If you know me, you know I do not have star power. I do not look up. There's no stars I want to meet. I've met world-class speakers. I've met presidents. I've met everyone. And you know what I know? We're all the same. If we're all the same, we all deserve the same level of forgiveness. And when I forgave those surgeons, I didn't call them up and go, hey, how you doing? Because I have all their cell phone numbers. I don't know what's wrong with those guys giving me their cell phones. I don't misuse them. But anyway, I didn't send them a cell phone. Hey, good to talk to you. I just forgave you for paralyzing my face. The forgiveness was for me. Forgiveness to go far in the face of adversity is for you. acknowledgement of I want to talk a little bit more about the faith, because eventually we need faith in ourselves. I have a great engineer with me, James, today, who's running the background. Thank you, James. And I had to have faith in him and faith in this process. I tried to do a Facebook Live event or a LinkedIn Live event a couple of weeks ago before my surgery. Massive fail, massive fail. And you know what? I just got back up, Muhammad Ali style, and stood back up in the ring and go, well, we got to do that again. And thanks to James and his technique and his expertise, we're here today live. We're going to record this. If you didn't get to see it all, we'll put it out there. But if you don't have faith in yourself, everyone else has to prop you up. In Dead Rita's wisdom, simple words to help you live an extraordinary life. My dearly departed mother, Rita, did not believe in herself. She came from a traumatic childhood. She had been beaten up verbally by my grandmother, and then my father took over. And by the time I was of age to help her, all I saw was this beautiful, magnificent woman that did not know who she was. And I'd say, oh, Mom, you're a great artist. You're beautiful. She goes, oh, Vic, I wish I could see the woman you see. And she never did. And she'll be dead 25 years this October. I still think of her every day. But even though my mother did not have faith in herself, by the grace of God, she taught me that I had to have faith in myself. She taught me I could do anything. In my TEDx talk in 2018, I talk about facing bullying and how I faced the bullies and won, if you win against bullies. But one day when I was doing work, because I've done a lot of this work, I'm not asking you, any of you, to do the work I have not done. I have spent 20 years doing the work so that I could be the good executive coach and support person to my clients. And I was writing down who I was. And I had faith in myself. And I remember writing all this down. Here's who I am, which is an important exercise. And I heard my mother's voice in my head say, Vic, now you just learned who you are, and no one will have to believe in you the way you had to believe in me. I thought, that's it. I have to have faith in myself. When I started my Harvard degree, what the hell am I doing going to Harvard? My undergrad was such a struggle. I was working 40 to 50 hours a week, taking 15 credit hours. I wanted to be an accountant, but I was not focused on school, and my grade point showed it. But in 2016, I decided, if I'm going to get another degree, I'm going to get it from Harvard. Insane thought. But I had faith in myself to get started. And when I got my first A in my first semester, I cried because I did not know I was capable of A's. But when we realize what we're capable of and we begin to have faith in ourselves, that is where our strength lies to face our adversity. So now let me go on to the A of acknowledgement. As I had a friend years ago who used to say, we got to put the skunk on the table. Yeah, that's a good idea. Acknowledgement is acknowledging the problem in front of you. And, you know, whether it's work stuff, cancer, health, self-doubt, what if we really look at facing adversity through saying, this is what is bothering me? Now, this is where a therapist or a coach can be really helpful. Therapy, let me tell you the difference between therapy and coaching if you don't know. Coaching looks forward, therapy looks back. So you have to think about that. If I were your coach and you'd said, you know, I had doubt in myself, Vic, I'd say, okay, let's do a series of exercises and let's look at this and let's examine where it comes from, accept it, and move on. Therapy, on the other hand, will look back and say what was happening, look at trauma. And many, many clients are in therapy and coaching at the same time. Two different things. But Support is what we need. And every one of my families and friends know I have a 0 wine policy, though I do have a very strong red wine policy. Yeah, that's a joke. Whining, though, wine and whining is different, because speaking of your fears is more than yes, but it's a response that begins to seep into conversations. And you have to decide, do you put the skunk on the table? And who around you can help you face the storms of your life? The entire world had to put the skunk on the table with COVID. And look at how it affected us all. In 2020, I was part of a research group that did a report called Leading with Humanity at the Institute of Coaching. We interviewed leaders worldwide to find out how they were handling the adversity of COVID. And Leading with Humanity, the name of the report, really spoke to how they had to find more empathy in the world. If you are interested, please email me, Vicki@victoriatravash.com, put in the subject line, Leading with Humanity, and I will send to you this report. It is fascinating. It's also great for coaches. It gives you lots of coaching tips. But they realized that empathy was going to change everything. Now, here was my skepticism. Of course, in crisis, we learn. You don't have a choice. Are they still leading with empathy in 2024? The world's kind of crazy right now, yeah? But empathy still matters. And working and leading with empathy is not about saying, well, they're not doing it. It's about saying, what will I do? How will I change? And acknowledging a problem is to help us to learn to grow, because our job is to change in the world. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago? How could that be? You may have some of the same belief systems. You may think that the way you're feeling about things is the same, but I promise you it's not. And if we had the chance to work together, we would suss some of those ideas out to figure it out. I have run mastermind groups and facilitations over the years and seen absolute magic happen when people are brought together for a group. And they regularly meet, and they have confidence in the ability of the group to help them and help one another and put their biggest storms on the table, their biggest skunks on the table, to face them. And it's going through a process of a series of questions. And I want to take you on that journey and change your life so you can get the tools to help others, and give you tools that will help you solve problems for the rest of your life. Now, we can stick our heads in the sand and let the consequences follow, or we can learn. As I mentioned, in 2013, when I had the Widowmaker heart attack, it woke me up. And a year later, I was more prepared for cancer than I ever would have been without the Widowmaker. I put the skunk on the table about my health in 2013 and got in better shape and mentally understood what was happening to me. But through the years, it has gotten more difficult, and yet it has gotten easier. Years ago, I came to understand the buffalo and the spirit of the buffalo. Now, y'all know I love a good buffalo. And there he is. Doesn't he look good right in center? You know, I kind of, there we go. It's on the shoulders. If you don't know the story of the buffaloes roamed the great plains of the Midwest, and they were the sacred animal of and I miss my buffalo, James. It's okay. You can put him back up. They roamed the great plains of Montana, and they were sacred to the American Indian. And the American Indian, if they had to sacrifice a buffalo, they used it all: the hide, the horns, the snout, every piece, the meat. Okay, you can take it down now. Thanks. Because they knew that this animal was being sacrificed for them. The thing about the buffalo is that when a storm is coming, and check it out, you can, I have been sort of the buffalo spirit for years, longer than it became popular. But when a buffalo sees a storm coming, they run towards it because they know the storm's coming. It's going to hit them. And if they run towards it, it passes over them and they get through it. If you run from the storm chases you and stays with you. Another great metaphor, and I've always felt this. Growing up in the Midwest, you're in a sunny day, and all of a sudden rain hits the windshield of your car. I mean, like hard, like it's really raining. And it pounds the windshield. And then you get even under an underpass and wait for the rain to pass. Or the rain stops. And you look in your rearview mirror and there are dark clouds. And man, do I feel bad for the cars on the other side of the road going that direction. And that's how storms happen. And that's what happens when we face a storm. And I used this metaphor big time when I had my surgery last February. I was in intensive care for 7 days, and I did not want visitors. And though my family and friends knew about the surgery, John kept them informed, but I looked like I'd gotten hit by a truck. I kind of did, actually. But I prepared a buffalo poster for all my caregivers. I lay there with a tracheostomy, a feeding tube, all kinds of tubes coming out of my head to clear, tubes coming out of here to clear this. And all these caregivers would walk into the room, and I'd point to the poster. I'd say, sign my poster. And they would read it, they would smile, and they would sign it. And they became part of my team where I work in Rwanda, where the word for buffalo is imbogo. And I have to admit, at this age, I'd rather be called an imbogo than a buffalo. This was only one side of the poster. And this was up. And John put up in the left-hand corner, please sign. And the surgeon signed it. The therapist signed it. The cleaning person signed it. And I am Imbogo, and you are in my herd of Imbogo. We gather for strength, and we walk towards the storm to come out of the other side unscathed and victorious. And the effect that that poster had on my care team was simply amazing. They couldn't believe it. I'd have a nurse all night, and at the end of the shift, I'd say, please sign the poster. And they wrote things to me that will forever support me. That is why we face adversity together. Now, 46 minutes into this, I am not telling you about all of this to have you learn how strong I am or to focus on my own adversity. I am here to tell you that I have faced these storms and have learned to, number one, advocate for myself, and number two, to use my voice, and number three, to face my truth. 4, to get empowering beliefs every day that I have enough strength for the day. And 5, to seek partners to help me along the way. So we've covered faith and what's the first F? Okay, this. Okay, so we've covered. So in AdFARsity, we have covered faith and all you heard yelling at me, my own word. I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of deep into this. So forgiveness, faith and forgiveness, acknowledgement, and then the third part is rejoice. We must rejoice and be grateful. When I first got oral cancer, I had no idea what to expect. And I was searching around the internet and came across a CEO who had throat cancer. And he said something that changed me. He said he would find joy in the smallest of things. And we have to learn to celebrate people in the way they want to be celebrated. Well, I don't mind being the center of attention, but I don't like a lot of fuss when I'm ill. And I tend to push people away. I don't want to hurt them. I just want to recover. But I do have so much life, so much joy in my life. And the fact that it hurts when I laugh too hard with all my face, with all the surgeries I've had, is not really a problem. But I have learned to rejoice in the smallest of victories, because greatness lies not in the event, but the attitude of gratitude we hold. For instance, now that I have these new teeth in, I cannot chew food for 2 months. No hard food, because the posts and the bone grafts have to heal. So liquid diet only. Protein shakes, coffee, water. I'm doing fine. But the other day, like 2 days ago, I'm getting really hungry, truth be told. But I finally had some warm soup, and I didn't want anything hot in my mouth. It was so sensitive. But I rejoiced at the taste of warm soup. For me, everything is perspective. I woke up the other morning super hungry. You know, that growling stomach hungry. And if you know me, never, ever, ever tell me you're starving. You're not starving. You're hungry. You might even be hangry, but you're not starving. Starving people do not look like you and me. Hungry people can look like you or me. But as I laid there and I thought, I'm hungry, I thought, oh my God, people are this hungry every single day of their life. And I rejoiced in the fact that soon, 2 months soon, I'll be able to eat food. I'll be okay. And one day I'll be able to eat food. And I'm telling you that I will rejoice at the thought of eating a cheeseburger again. Who knew I would get such joy from thinking about eating a cheeseburger? Now back to you. How do you celebrate people in your life? And how do you celebrate yourself? Where do you find wonder? A couple of weeks ago, I went to Miraval in Tucson, which is a spa, and I went there to get my head on straight for the upcoming tooth surgery. And I was so grateful to be there. And I hit a gong, and I was meditating. I was sitting by the pool. I was having treatments or looking at the food I couldn't eat, because even though I had my real teeth, they were loose, and I only had I got all these. Look at that. All those teeth going back there. But my teeth kind of ended right here, and I had one I could chew with, and not well. So I just kind of gave up food. And I was super careful. And there were challenge courses for me, like the Quantum Leap. And there was zero drama. And what that time at Miraval did was get me realigned, body, soul, and spirit, which I need to face adversity. And if you are so fortunate to get away, to take time, you should. Do not work yourself to death. And if you are in the middle of an emotional crisis, self-doubt, stop, drop, and roll. You know, that's an expression kids use today. If they're on fire, they stop, drop, and roll. Did they tell kids in the 50s and 60s to stop? We could have been burning like a house on frickin' fire walking down the street. Anyway, sorry. But you need to take care of yourself. And when you do, you find that it's going to be okay. There are 3 things they say when an ambulance pulls up to a traffic scene. Help is on the way. Breathe. It's going to be okay. When we face our adversity, when we rejoice in it, when we rejoice in what's happening, and we take time to get away, we get perspective. In the coaching program I'm going to talk about in a little bit, there will be a time for you to go to Miraval if you partake in this coaching program. And I don't think there's any way better than to refresh, than to take the time and rejoice. And how often are our vacations too short? I rejoice about other things too. I rejoice about a good doctor visit. Every time I submitted another chapter of my thesis to my thesis advisor, I would rejoice. And I did it all because of that CEO who said, rejoice in the small things. And then I celebrated when I uploaded the whole thesis to Harvard. I enjoyed my graduation last May. And the other thing is, my time with family and friends is so critical to my happiness. And I believe we have to find a way to make sure that we take time for the relationships in our life that bring us joy and happiness. So consider, how will you rejoice? Those are the 3 pillars: faith and forgiveness, acknowledgement, and rejoicing. There is so much work to do, more than this short message. But I'm going to be offering a 12-month coaching program where I offer a deep dive into AdFARsity. It will be a cohort of no more than 8 members, and we will meet once a month on Zoom starting in April. And I have 2 planned events, in-person events, one in July and then Miraval in October, so we can come together as a group. The coaching includes not only meeting with the group once a month, but meeting with me for your own personal coaching. Now, frankly, you knew this was coming, but I refuse to hard sell this to you. This is not a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No, this is an opportunity in your life to change it. I have realized that my journey here on earth is one of adversity, but I face it with joy, and my legacy, I realize now, is to help others do the same. Long after I have uttered my last word, I encourage you not to be inspired by me, but be inspired by yourself and know it's time for you to practice what I preach. The program includes a workbook and is designed to help you identify and confront your greatest obstacles with greater compassion, skill, courage than you thought possible. I'm going to give you the price. It's $12,000 in 4 payments over the year, or $10,000 up front. There will be the in-person events. The only thing extra is accommodations and travel. And we will do guided meditations in our work together. We will do homework. The cost of $12,000 is about 1/3 of what I charge for coaching one-on-one for a year. So it's not a bad deal. But if you are interested, you can pay me up front $12,000, $10,000, whatever serves you best. You can email me at Vicki@victoriatrabosh.com for more details. And we are starting mid-April, and I cannot wait for this journey to start. I'm going to end in a moment with a short video that asks a series of questions that I prepared for you. I hope this has brought you value, and after the video, I will stay on to answer your questions or comment. And I hope you found this valuable, as I want to change the world in my own way with my own tools, and I hope you do too. Please show the video, and then we'll stay online. That's it. I'm here live. I wonder if you have any questions or comments. You can post them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything, just here to serve. And while this will be watched over and over again by other people, the right people are always in the room. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you staying and listening and being available for the wisdom that I have to share. I believe in AdFARsity. I love my little buffalo. I got buffaloes all over the place. Here's a cute one. Can't see it on screen, but is he adorable or what? And these little things remind me of what is possible. So if we don't have any questions, we're going to go. Is there any comments, James, that you want to put in the chat? All right, everybody. Wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much. I'd like to end with an African prayer that says, take care of the children, for they have a long way to go. Take care of the elders, for they have come a long way. And take care of those in between, for they are doing the work. Thank you for doing the work. I'll see you soon.